After yet another European disaster and a very gloomy season in the league, it's clear that the main people responsible for Barcelona's previous failures are still present in the workforce. Barcelona are in serious trouble, and after crashing out of the Champions League in the group stages for only the third time in their history, the Blaugrana have hit a new low. RB Leipzig have appointed a new manager who will now be looking to help the club bounce back after an abysmal start to the campaign. French teams are always struggling with finances these days, but for Lille, the Champions League has been a blessing. Meanwhile, PSG are now looking to offload Georgino Wijnaldum following the Dutchman's forgettable start to life in France. We've got loads of talking points today, so if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Disappointing since his arrival in the French capital, Wijnaldum is not having a great time. So much so that a departure is already being considered by the Parisian management. Last summer, observers welcomed the arrival at Paris Saint-Germain of Georgino Wijnaldum. It must be said that the Parisian club had beaten Barcelona for his signature. The Dutch midfielder therefore landed as a free agent from Liverpool, with the fierce desire to win in the French capital. But here's the thing, everything has not gone as planned. Given a starting role during the first days by Mauricio Pochettino, his performances were disappointing, if not tasteless. Over the season, the Dutch international has seen his credit crumble in the eyes of the Argentine tactician. His brace against RB Leipzig and a goal against RC Lens were unfortunately not enough to convince the management, Pochettino and his technical staff. As a result, Wijnaldum has only been played 7 times in Ligue 1 and 3 times in the Champions League. Aware of these beginnings, the native of Rotterdam let his spleen hang out in front of the Dutch media. His performances have already disappointed the club, and they're now looking to offload him as soon as the January transfer window. According to information from Sky Sports, PSG will be willing to listen to offers for their midfielder as early as January. The option chosen remains clear: loan Wijnaldum during the winter transfer window. For his part, the player would be more open than ever to a return to the Premier League. That's good news for Arsenal, who could come forward in the coming days. This is an incredible turnaround for a player supposed to bring added value to the squad. For once, the 2 French clubs involved in the Champions League have passed the group stages of the Champions League without a hitch. After a rather successful group stage, especially for Lille, it's time to take stock. If PSG are doing very well and already guaranteed to receive a big check, then Lille can also afford a smile based on the assurance of replenishing their funds at the end of the season. First of all, it's important to recall the rules of distribution by club. The compensation paid by UEFA to each team breaks down into 4 revenue items: participation bonuses, 15.64 million per club; performance bonuses, 2.8 million per victory and 930,000 per draw; the UEFA coefficient for the last 10 seasons, 32 points for the first in the standings, and so on until the last of the 32 qualified, up to 1.108 million per point, and the television and marketing rights specific to each country on which the team depends. And this season, PSG and Lille will inevitably be the winners, since the 2 French clubs qualified for the round of 16 of the competition benefit from the non-qualification of AS Monaco in the group stage to increase their share of the pie. And in this little game, it's often PSG which pulls out of the game. The Ligue 1 leaders, who had a complicated European campaign, are doing very well, with current gains estimated at 64.25 million, compared to 63.25 million in the same period last year, excluding market pool. Qualifying for the quarterfinals will bring in 9.6 million more. As for Lille, who qualified for the next round only for the 2nd time in their history, it is inevitably a sense of euphoria which reigns. The reigning French champs, who had a great group stage with a first-place finish, are bound to get some financial help. And it's at least 38 million euros that will enter their coffers outside the market pool. Clearly, Lille will do well with the money that they're getting, especially considering the financial issues the club has been facing in the last year and a half. Following the sacking of Jesse Marsch, RB Leipzig have moved rather swiftly to bring in a new manager. The club confirmed the appointment of 36-year-old Domenico Tedesco on Thursday. The arrival of the young German tactician is bound to raise a few eyebrows, since he's still relatively new to football management. However, it should be noted that he was the manager of Schalke 04 between 2017 and 19 and guided the Royal Blues to a 2nd place finish in the Bundesliga during his first season at the club. Hopefully, Tedesco's arrival is exactly what the club needs, given the fact that they've performed way below par if you look at the talented players that they've got on their books. Another rude and difficult awakening for Barcelona. This time, the Catalans didn't even have to wait to be reminded about the fall from grace. However, the recent Champions League elimination did not surprise many people in the end, at least as soon as we knew that it was against the Bavarians, Barcelona's pet peeve these days. Xavi Hernandez's men were never going to win this game, in all honesty. As is often the case in these situations, we tend to look for a culprit, a face on which to lay the blame for failure, and that's good. In Barcelona, you can find loads of those faces. Obviously, in football, everything's a question of context. If things go badly in the office, it's very rare that things go well on the field. We can say without blinking too much that Josep Maria Bartomeu, the former president, as well as his henchmen, have a great deal of responsibility in the current situation of Barca. They left the club practically in ruins, an unbalanced workforce and some underperforming players with colossal wages, which is why the last summer transfer window was very quiet, even after the return of Joan Laporta. We could write a whole book on the management of Barca under the Bartomeu era, since in addition to the purely sporting and financial aspects, a whole bunch of controversies and scandals were added. The law of the field always prevails, however. Against Bayern, yes, you might say, but what about Benfica, or even a good number of modest La Liga teams in which Barcelona were unable to win? There, we have to point the finger at the players, and above all the captains and/or executives of the team, starting with the goalkeeper, Marc-Andre ter Stegen. If we legitimately include him in the debate of the best goalkeeper in the world a few years ago, the German is extremely far from it today, and is struggling to be decisive. And what about the Alba, Piqué and Busquets trio, the old Catalan guard of the team, still as important despite putting in more than mediocre performances most of the time? Then comes a category of players that many supporters have taken a dislike to, since it contains players who are supposed to be very important, given their salary in any case, but who are not for various reasons, such as Philippe Coutinho, Ousmane Dembele or Samuel Umtiti. Even if they're rarely on the field and therefore not directly responsible for the poor results, they're annoying because they're considered to be at fault for the financial situation and the club's inability to recruit any world-class players. Then, there are those players who are simply not at a certain level, like Oscar Mingueza or Clément Lenglet, not to mention Luc de Jong, and this last list of players where we find elements that are straddling two categories, such as Memphis Depay or Frenkie de Jong, who, without being inherently bad, are a little below what you'd expect of them. Sadly, only a small handful of players like Pedri, Ansu Fati, Gavi, Nico Gonzalez or Ronald Araujo, the young guard of Barca in short, escape all forms of criticism. If we were talking about Josep Maria Bartomeu earlier in the article, Joan Laporta is also starting to take a few liberties. In hindsight, we can say that the summer was badly managed from a sporting point of view. There was the Messi case, of course, while the Barca boss had been optimistic on numerous occasions and had bet on his proximity to the Messi clan, ultimately not really proven as one of the main assets of his electoral campaign. Then he failed to part with many players who are no longer on the level, and didn't strengthen the workforce as expected, although it should be noted that his work on the accounting plan is fairly commendable. The Ronald Koeman case was also annoying, since whatever was going on in the background was leaked and became very public. As for Xavi Hernandez, he arrived recently, so for now, he mostly suffers from the situation that he's inherited. But we were still entitled to expect a little more, since fundamentally, it's practically the same Barca that we saw with Ronald Koeman. No big changes in the game, therefore, with the team still as harmless as the one we saw in the first 2 months of the season. The Catalan tactician continues in addition to betting on the veterans mentioned above, which makes people cringe, while many expected a small revolution in the workforce. The Barcelona coach still has plenty of time to get the team back on track and is not in danger, but some players are completely burnt out, and that's something he should not ignore. For now though, Barcelona can play in the Europa League. Some would say that playing in Europe's second-tier competition isn't a good look for a club as illustrious as Barcelona, but then again, that is their level right now.